None of the top 20 law firms in the US so far have offered their unconditional support to Perkins Coie. Fair weather friends, where'd they go?
It's the people. 77 million of them voted for the guy who put his name on a ballot, went out and ran, told us he was going to secure the border and do the things he's doing, and that you have a judge in Timbuktu, California, who can do some order or some injunction and stop that.
Liberal lawyers are now abandoning their friends. Trump has come out with executive order after EO and hitting law firm after law firm, many of them big, super Democrat lib lawyers, and they were sending letters to each other, trying to rally the troops, support us, don't let Trump take us out. But now there's a fissure. They're not helping each other. Financial Times is reporting saying top US law firms balk at backing Perkins Coie's challenge to Trump's sanctions. Some law firms have been making deals here. We've been covering them. Others are suing. Perkins Coie, of course, was one of the law firms that represented Hillary Clinton and worked with Fusion GPS, Michael Sussman, Mark Elias, created the entire Russiagate scandal and collusion hoax starting back in 2016. They were going to their friends, please help us. And now their friends don't want to. None of the top 20 law firms in the US so far have offered their unconditional support to Perkins Coie. Fair weather friends, where'd they go? Organizers of an amicus brief in support of Perkins' lawsuit, right? Like, we're joined by 25 top law firms. Like, no, you're on your own. You guys, we didn't do that crap. We didn't work with Mark Elias. You did. They're struggling to convince America's most powerful law firms to sign up amid concerns that they're also going to face retaliation by Trump. This isn't retaliation. These people tried to attack Trump. They tried to commandeer the federal government to do that. They were offering and providing pro bono services to Jack Smith for whatever reason, who's illegitimate. And we're trying to take out Trump, kick him off the ballot. A lot of this stuff organized by the same groups we see here today, like Crew and many others, American Oversight, Norm Eisen's Love Children. All of these things are involved in the criminal attempts against Trump. He's got no obligations to work with them at all. So now they're ending their contracts. It's not retaliation, okay? Don't attack him. And he wouldn't have done this. In fact, he's not doing it to many law firms who didn't attack him. Eric Green, a well-known mediator, has been circulating a draft of the brief and tallying the daily numbers of those law firms willing to add their names to the document. Okay, the brief is being prepared by some crap law firm in LA called Munger, Tolles, and Olson. All right, so they're like, we're gonna fight this. We're gonna organize a 51 ladder of CIA morons. According to an email sent on Saturday afternoon by Green's firm, it's called Resolutions LLC, which was seen by the Financial Times, 173 of 248 law firms that have responded to the survey are offering unconditional support. Those are pretty good numbers, actually. 173 out of 248, that's pretty good. However, among the top 100 law firms by revenue, as ranked by the American Lawyer, only 3 have offered unconditional support, with none coming from the top 20. All right, so it's all like George Conway. George Conway's like, my law firm's gonna stand behind you. It's like, yeah, okay, George, no one cares. None of them offering support. None coming from the top 20. That's what you want. The brief is supposed to be submitted to the court in the next few days in conjunction with the formal filings, but not looking good. 8 firms in the top 100 have offered their support with conditions, including that their closest peers also sign on to the brief. They're like, well, are these people going to sign? Who else is signing it? Is he signing it? Is he signing it? According to one person involved. As such, nearly all of the full-throated support so far for the amicus brief originates from small and medium-sized firms like George Conway. And shout out to the small firms. Yeah, I mean, you know, they're amazing. But says, so the numbers are great, but not from the large firms, wrote Green. According to Trump's order, Perkins would be banned from the federal government. A federal judge in Washington issued an injunction. Since Perkins Coie, Trump has hit 2 other law firms that we've talked about here. Paul Weiss cut a deal, $40 million in pro bono. Skadden said they're going to give another $100 million in pro bono. Wilmer Hale, Jenner Block have both sued. Perkins Coie and Eric Green, the mediator, did not respond to requests, but the 3-page draft says, like every lawyer, the members of the amicus have sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution. Whatever. All right, well, why'd Mark Elias and Michael Sussman, in conjunction with Christopher Steele and the Fusion GPS folks, and with tacit approval from the Perkins Coie partners, try to take out President Trump? Okay, where is that in the oath? Democracy or something like that? Okay, you guys made it up. All right, so now they're all abandoning ship. Fair weather friends, as you could expect. But they did have this victory, so this is temporary and fleeting. Can't wait until we get some clarity from the courts of appeals on why Trump can cancel these contracts. And again, these are just artful pleadings. They take their contract cancellation, it's just a canceled contract, and they turn it into something else, right? It's like they turn it into a marriage or something. You're like, I was just here to cut your grass. And you're leaving now? I can't believe you're divorcing me. You're like, I'm your lawn guy, okay? Just relax. Our relationship's over. It's very temporary. We're not in this forever, okay? Wilmer, you're fired. You're not entitled to eternal matrimony with the federal government, okay? Goodbye. But they sue. They say, our rights are... and they're entitled to alimony for the next 100,000 years. They say this matter comes before the court. This is a district court judge, and this judge is going to find in favor of them. It's a short order. Richard J. Leon says, all right, Wilmer is going to win. I will grant in part and deny in part their TRO. So Wilmer says, how dare you, President Trump, cut off our contract, bring them back. This judge is basically saying it's coming back. Says, as to these various factors, he gives us an analysis, and he says, so in conclusion, parts of the order are enjoined, parts of the order are allowed, and so we'll see what they do in the aftermath of that. Doesn't give us a lot of clarity on what is what. We saw a very similar order from Beryl Howell, right? Like certain things having to do with buildings and whatever, but part of the agreements will continue, part of the agreements will end, and people are quitting at these law firms. They're throwing temper tantrums. So here, another person from Skadden quits. Skadden was one of the firms that entered into a settlement with Trump. The first lawyer we read here was Rachel Cohen. Remember, she wrote that like ranty screed. I can't believe you're settling. Absolutely mad and banana nuts. She left. One of her demands was to support Perkins. Then after Skadden reached an agreement, a second associate announced that she was resigning on LinkedIn too. It's like, you know, what do they say? It's not Southwest. You don't have to announce your departure. Okay, just quit. The associate is called Brenna Trout, criticized executive partner Jeremy London for capitulating to Trump's demand. She says, he's for fealty and protection money. This is a craven attempt to sacrifice the rule of law for self-preservation. It's fun to watch these people just whine. I know there are people still at the firm who can't leave for whatever reason, financial, needing to pay back law school loans, the breadwinner for their family, so like they're all victims. I knew that those people can't speak out, so because I was able to, I felt it important to make that public. So she's going to go drop a little screed over there. We're asking, what is Congress going to do about these hack lawyers asking for these nationwide injunctions? What are these judges going to do? Can they step in and do anything? Well, look who wrote this one. Chuck Grassley, senator from Iowa, said, how about we have a bill to stop nationwide injunctions? Chuck Grassley wrote this in an op-ed, says, this month NBC's poll finds more registered voters believe our country's on the right track than at any other time in the past 2 decades. But right now, amid Trump's executive actions, federal judges have increasingly and inappropriately inserted themselves into national policy debates. Now, these nationwide injunctions have obstructed. More than 2/3 of all injunctions issued over the past 24 years have been hit against Trump, the first administration. And in the past 2 months alone, judges have issued 15 injunctions against Trump, surpassing the 14 that Biden faced throughout his entire term. Now, scholars can find no clear record of universal injunctions before 1963. All right, and this is the point that I think has some overlap with the issue that we've seen here come up again about foreign judges coming in and issuing nationwide TROs. And then the response is, well, how come we don't have a birthright or a natural born citizenship clause for judges? Like, why don't we have that? We have that for the president. Why not for judges? And I think in part it's because you want the judges to reflect the actual jurisdiction, the geography of where they are. And so some, I think the founders probably thought this through and thought, well, some people may want natural born citizens from their local demographics and their local communities to be judges. And that's fine. But they never contemplated a nationwide injunction, which would be akin to the power of the president, which I think would be more analogous as to why we should have a natural born requirement for federal judges. And if they're going to keep doing that, I think we might need to have a constitutional amendment to modify those conditions. But anyways, they wrote this. No practice of this until 1963. Right? Now, the practice has become common only in the past few decades. It can have serious consequences for the taxpayer. A Biden-appointed judge in D.C. issued a TRO against USAID. That was Amir Ali, born in Canada. TROs are supposed to maintain the status quo, but Judge Amir from Ontario said $2 billion needs to go out the door. Totally ridiculous. These decisions also place undue stress on the judicial system, says Grassley. Political and fiscal implications aside, district court judges and their abuse of discretion and TROs is unconstitutional. And so the obvious solution is this. If the Supreme Court won't act, Congress must. Article 3, Section 1 of the Constitution authorizes Congress to create and organize the federal court. On Monday today, Grassley says, I will introduce the Judicial Relief Clarification Act to restore the constitutional role of the lower courts by restraining their ability to issue universal injunctions. Under my bill, says Grassley, lower courts like Chutkan and Amir Ali and Amy Berman Jackson and the rest of them, lower courts could no longer block legitimate executive actions by issuing orders to non-parties to the lawsuit. Okay, so Boasberg, for example, could only issue an order to stop the deportation of JGG and the 5 people who were parties agree to that lawsuit, but not issue a blanket that hits the whole nation. The bill would also make TROs against the government immediately appealable to SCOTUS to make sure that prudence wins over the rash decisions handed out by these political hacks, says Grassley from Iowa. I hope lawmakers on both sides of the aisle will join me in moving it forward. Not only Republicans have been alarmed by the far-reaching consequences of these judges, 240 Democratic lawmakers, including Schumer and Durbin in 2023, said there are perilous consequences if a district judge blocks mifepristone, okay? And Elena Kagan has said the same thing. Can't have this. Republicans and Democrats alike, says Grassley, including me, have cheered or criticized the policy implications of universal injunctions, but that approach inappropriately politicizes the federal court system and disrupts the balance of power. Congress ought to put a stop to it for good. He's right. I hope Congress takes that advice and does something with it. Now, we had Jim Jordan, who of course is in Congress. He was also on with Mark Levin, and here's what Jim had to say about this.
Injunction that applies nationwide. So we got legislation. We'll look at the appropriations process. I think it's the main power we have in the legislative branch to deal with the other branches of government. We'll look at that. And then finally, we're going to do oversight, which is one of our other responsibilities. And we'll start that with the hearing next week with some experts who will come in and talk about this issue and what has disproportionately happened with these left-wing activist judges going after President Trump. And the people who put their name on the ballot who we elect, or the experts, the unelected judges, or worse yet, the unelected bureaucrats who the left always seems to want to empower, like the Faucis of the world who ran our life, ran our country for 4 stinking years during the Biden administration. So yeah, this is the fundamental question. It's the people. 77 million of them voted for the guy who put his name on a ballot, went out and ran, told us he was going to secure the border and do the things he's doing, and that you have a judge in Timbuktu, California, who can do some order or some injunction and stop that. That is not how our system's supposed to work, and you're off. This is so important. So important. It's we, the people, and the people that we elect who make the decisions.
And Jim Jordan explaining what I think many Americans are feeling. We would like our say to have some weight. We voted for the president. We did not vote for these judges. These judges were installed by Obama and Biden, many of them not from the United States at all. 1/3 of them in DC are not from the United States, which is a pretty sick thing to think about. And if you think about it that way, there are 5 foreign countries that have more influence, more representation on the DC District Court than any swing state in America, just to be clear on that. And I looked it up. There's nobody on the DC District Court judge who's from Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, South Carolina. Nobody there. Nobody from Georgia, nobody from Pennsylvania on that court. But there are people on DC who are from Trinidad and Tobago, who are from Jamaica, who are from Canada, who are from India. How is that an American court at all? There are no good judges in Wisconsin who can be on that court? I think there are. I think there's a different reason why Joe Biden appointed 3 out of 5 judges from foreign countries in DC when he had the opportunity. Why are they doing that? We know why.